How can you make your resume stand out if you're looking for your first Go job? I'm asked this question all the time. And so today I'm happy to review another CV. This one was sent to me by a viewer of the last review I've done. I'll have a link to that, of course, if you want to watch that one too. So sit back and have a watch. I hope you'll learn something here and will help you land your first Go job. Hi, I'm Jonathan Hall. Welcome aboard. If you're new here, be sure to hit the subscribe button. And if you learned something today, I hope you'll hit like as well. So a few months ago, I did a review of a CV that somebody sent me and made suggestions on how to improve it. And then just a couple days ago, I got an email from a viewer who asked me to review their CV, so I'm going to do that today. Let me start by reading their email. Hi, Jonathan. I'm Utkarsh Kaurusha. I hope I said that right. A fellow gopher and back-end person who's also interested in automation. Thanks for writing. I wanted to reach out to you and get some feedback on my resume. He says he did watch the previous video and fixed a few things on his resume, and then has a few specific questions he'd like me to address. First, he points out that he believes his resume is more ATS friendly than the one I reviewed before. That may be true. He says he doesn't have a lot of work experience, but he has done a number of open source contributions, and he's looking for his first job ever. So it's a little bit of a different situation than the previous resume I reviewed. So let's get started. I have not looked at this CV yet, so this will be new to both of us as we go along. All right, so here we go. Before I even look at the content, first couple impressions. I love that it's only one page. However, it looks crowded. That's not necessarily entirely bad. One page is a really good thing. You want to keep your resume short. If it's too long, then it tends to people just skim it. They aren't going to read it very closely. But it does look crowded, so I would consider looking for ways to make it to add some white space, and maybe I'll have some specific suggestions as I go along. But let's start looking at the content. So at the very top, of course, we have the person's name and the title they're looking for, Go Engineer. That's good. That's perfect, actually, in my opinion. To have that at the top makes it really clear to anybody looking at the CV what is expected. Phone number, email address, website, that's all good. GitHub, LinkedIn, and a blog. Those are great. If I was looking at this to consider hiring this person, I would be clicking on some of those links. And I may do that on this video. We'll see if I have time. Next, we have education. Now, it's important. I think this is okay. It's important to put your relevant experience in reverse chronological order. That means, most recent first. This person says they have not had a job before, so I think they've done that. One mistake I see on some resumes is to put education and then work experience, or even more specifically, just to put it in forward chronological order. So they start with education, then their first job, second job, third job. Put that in reverse. Always put your most recent experience first because it's most relevant. You want to put the most relevant stuff at the top first on your resume. With that in mind, I would actually put skills ahead of education because that's part of the summary. You want somebody to notice your skills first before they look at your education or even your employment history because that's the high-level overview. So I would move the skills section above education. I would also probably cut back the list of skills maybe to about half of what it is. Like, I wouldn't put Cobra or Gingonic. Is that how it's pronounced? Gingonic? I'm not sure how that's pronounced. I wouldn't put Fast HTTP. Those are specific libraries. I wouldn't put those there. I think that's too much detail, and it contributes to the CV being overly crowded. I'm not actually sure what Charmbase is or Dagger. If those are libraries, I would remove those as well. Go, Bash, SQL, those are great things to have there. For tools, Docker, get rid of GNU Linux, just call it Linux. There is no other Linux, and that just helps make it shorter. Yeah, I would just go through all of these, remove a few things, like remove technical documentation. If you are applying as a technical writer, that would be useful, although you should be more specific. I don't think that's really relevant here. So just clean this up, take a few things away, take away the least relevant things, just to make it look less crowded. Also, on the topic of looking crowded, if you had extra white space between each of these sections, that would help a lot. I know that would make it go beyond one page without deleting some things, so I'll continue to keep that in mind as I go and maybe have more suggestions. But it needs some white space. It just feels too crowded right now. Open source contributions: Dagger with Go, Python, TypeScript, CI/CD. Added examples of glob patterns for Python. Is this a link to a pull request, perhaps? It is. It is a pull request submitted in May. It's still open. I wouldn't put that on your resume yet. Wait till it's approved and merged. Because anybody can open a pull request. Until it's been merged, it doesn't really count as a full contribution. Not to say that you didn't do the work. So I wouldn't put that on the CV. Let's see about the other ones here. It's a Discord link to something I can't read. So to get rid of that link, that's not useful apparently, and I don't know if that means you reported the issue via Discord. I would delete that too. I don't think that's going to provide value, and if somebody clicks the link, it undermines your authority. And reporting an issue isn't really an accomplishment. I mean, everybody, my grandmother can report issues, so I delete that one entirely. I don't think that's very useful. Unless you did something really significant in the reporting. You know, if you had to spend weeks debugging something, or it was a really interesting use case or something, then that might be worth talking about. But talk about that interesting part, not the fact that you reported the bug, but the fact that you investigated whatever was going on. And then one more here. This is a pull request. This one has been merged. So this one would be worth including, I suppose. Let me see what it is here. Very minor. So I guess it's part of the documentation build. Of the three here, that's the only one I would even consider, and it's so minor, I'm not sure if I really would, but what's important isn't the number of lines of code, it's the impact it has. So, you know, talking about that is useful if you feel like it made a big impact. I guess this is the issue that was filed that was fixed. Yeah, it could be worth putting in there. But don't put incomplete or unmerged things. Once it's merged, then consider adding the first one again. And I don't think reporting a bug is really a contribution worth mentioning on a CV. We have a couple other bug reports here. I'll go ahead and follow these quickly to see what they are. So this one was reported and resolved apparently by the same person. I would only focus on the resolution here. Bump the dependency version. Updating the README is fine. Bumping a dependency version doesn't really mean a whole lot. So here's the actual substantial change. Very minor as well. Mostly just deletes some code, and it uses the proper context. So that's useful. Previously it was using a to-do context, and now it's using the context from FastHTTP, which seems quite appropriate. But it's a very minor change. This one's probably worth including, but I wouldn't highlight the fact that you reported it, again, unless there was something substantial about discovering the bug. And then created a sample application. Let's have a look here. So this has not been merged yet. So again, I wouldn't include this on your resume until it's been approved and merged, because anybody can create pull requests. How old this one is, from March 22nd. So yeah, it's been sitting around for a while and hasn't been merged. That probably looks bad more than good. Having a pull request that's been sitting around for that many months, it's not going to instill confidence in the eyes of somebody considering hiring you. So focus on the things you've accomplished that have been, and getting a pull request merged by an open source project is an accomplishment, and it shows that other people trust you. So that's really useful. But focus on those. Don't show off the cases where it looks like people might not trust you. So in both of these cases, I would focus on the pull request that was merged. Once the others are merged, then consider adding those. And let's look at this other one here. Go Quest DB client, time series database. So added support. All right, let's see what's involved in this one. Go doc here. I like that there's a discussion here, a technical discussion, and you, the author, the contributor, pushed back on the suggestion. I'm not going to focus on exactly what the merits of that was, but I'm glad to see there was some pushback and back and forth there. That shows that you're cooperating with others, and you know that's important. And there's some tests here. That's good. Table-driven tests. You have a number of test cases. So this is good. It's a small pull request, but it looks legitimate and it's tested. And yeah, definitely include this one on your CV. And added unit test. I feel like this is an extension of that. Like it's the same pull request, if I'm not mistaken. I don't see a new link. So these probably belong together. Like I don't think calling out that you added a feature and you added tests for it separately makes sense. I mean, maybe you're trying to draw attention to the fact that you did testing. You know, it's good that you did tests. I hope that all the people I hire are able to do testing, but it should be assumed that you're doing testing. In fact, when I find someone who doesn't write tests, that's alarming rather than the other way around. So I wouldn't call this out, except if you really want to call it out, say added support and tests for, and then make it one bullet point. So now I've already suggested 2, 3, 4, 5 lines to delete, which will take care of the white space problem. The CV will look easier to read. I have projects here. So I guess these are projects that you have written yourself. Looks like it based on the GitHub profile link. So let's have a look at some of these. PMS project management /sucks. Okay. TUI utility to open your projects in your favorite editor. I'm not sure what kind of project it means, but maybe it will make sense here. I'm not going to do a full code review here. I'm just interested in to see what it does. So it looks like a command line tool called PMS. It has CLI options and TUI options. All right. Just look really briefly here because this is the sort of thing that somebody hiring you would look at. They'd look at this and see what's going on. The only direct dependency. Oh, this is interesting. I'm not sure why these are two different groups. There's a number of direct dependencies. Cobra, which is for CLI tools. Charm Bracelet Bubbles, Bubble T. Is Charm Bracelet for TUI applications? It must be. I remember seeing that on the CV earlier, but I didn't remember what it was for. Just curious to see what the code looks like at a really high level. Oh, I love this. I love this. Main just calls CMD to execute. I love that. If I was reviewing the code, this would get big kudos. The main.go should be very short. So I'm just trying to get a feel for how substantial this project is. It's pretty small, but that's not a problem. But there are no tests. So, consider adding some tests that will help show off your abilities better. What I see is great. I mean, like I said, it's fairly small, but that's not a problem. But adding some tests would be a big bonus. Let's look at the others. This one looks like it might be a little bit larger project, just based on the number of files so far. Go.mod again. More imports. JSON Web Tokens. This is a web-based thing. Got Gin in there. Crypto. Postgres. It's a lot more substantial. I'm not going to go through everything here. The one thing I don't see yet is tests, so that's another good thing to add. Looks like there's one more here. This is called Gentle. Okay, this one is a mix of Python. It doesn't look like this is even a Go project. Still good to put it on your resume, especially for a first job, because it shows that you have some experience. What is Gentle? Robust yet lenient forced aligner built on. Don't know what that is, but it looks like a more or less substantial project. I would include it in there. Let me look at the descriptions here. Review that. So this particular item I don't feel like belongs in this list. Implemented LRU, least recently used algorithm to ensure last project scores on top of list. I suspect the reason to include that is because you're proud of that detail, but I don't think a hiring manager is going to be impressed. What I care about is, did you write an application that did something useful, not what implementation details did you choose. This is the sort of thing to talk about when you're nerding out with another developer over a beer or something. It's probably not very relevant to the hiring manager. Probably would have moved that. Or if you really want to include it, and it's such a small detail, I don't think it's worth including. Yeah, I would just delete that. I don't think that's worth including. Let's look at the next one here. So a comment I was about to make when I said if you really want to. If you want to mention the use of an LRU cache, put it in the context of something else, like designing the TUI application with LRU algorithm. I mean, but the thing is, like, the benefit is so trivial. Putting the most recently used project at the top of the list is not a difficult problem to solve. So I think it undermines your authority and your technical ability by even calling it out. It kind of looks like you're excited about something that's not worth being excited about. So I would just delete that in this case. Now down here, this is a good way to mention that you use JWTs. If this is a separate bullet point, use JWTs. I would say tie that back into something else. So I think that one's done well here. Implements cloud native design, containerizing API, and automating code quality scanning and binary release. I don't know what that means. I mean, that's so many buzzwords right there. Do say use GitHub Actions. I want to look at this one a little bit more closely and see what the GitHub Actions is. Code coverage report. But I didn't see any tests, so what is that even reporting? Is it reporting anything? Go build, go vet, static check, go lint. Nothing wrong with any of that. It could be simplified, like if you wanted to use Golang CI lint, which I have a video about. But there's nothing wrong with what I see here. The only question is, what is the coverage report going to do? Because, well, you're not even running tests. So I think you're uploading a coverage report that's empty. So, yeah, it kind of looks like this is a boilerplate which is copied. Put some tests in here, and then you have Go Releaser. Go Releaser is a good tool. I like it. I use it on one of my projects too. All right, so back to the resume. Yeah, I don't feel like this is full of buzzwords and doesn't say very much. I also don't think, I mean, automating code quality scanning and binary release. So automating code quality scanning just means you ran a linter in your CI pipeline. That's good. It's not really a big deal. What API documentation using Postman? Okay, I mean, I think that's useful. I think I would just delete this little item because I don't think it adds a whole lot. Adding tests to the project would be much more impressive than this buzzword salad about automating code quality scanning. But you decide. All right, this last one here. Optimize the build process by reducing build time by 450% and container image size by 550. So I don't know what that means. This looks to me like a project you started with. It looks like a project you created, but then the first bullet point is you optimize the build process and container image size. With out of context, this sounds like you did a bad job and then you made it better, which isn't impressive. So I would delete this. If this is a project that you forked from somewhere and you improved it in that sense, then that might be worth doing. But make that clear. Say that you optimize, you forked the project and then optimized it. But as it stands, this isn't an accomplishment. Containerize the project to be compatible with AWS Lambda. Okay, so I don't know what this means without context. Like, why wasn't it for AWS Lambda from the beginning? Is this a project that you inherited? Let me click on this again and see if it's obvious. Okay, it was forked from someone else. Okay, make that clear. That would answer some of those questions. You could just say forked gentle or something like that, in your title. That might be enough. Or maybe down here say fork the project and then your accomplishment. But make it clear that this is a fork, because that will clear up the confusion on both of these points. All right, let's move on. Home Lab. I don't know what this is. There's no link, so I guess this is something. Maybe this is just your home server. Upgraded an old Windows desktop to local Linux server for hosting. Okay, nobody cares if it was an old Windows desktop. Now, saying that you've installed Linux locally is useful, but delete this. Nobody cares that you know how to delete Windows. But if you want to say that you installed Linux on a local server, that could be useful. So yeah, just reword that to be more direct and to the point. I'm gathering what this is his home network. He set up a Linux server, which is great. What's not clear to me is if this is just your. No, we'll probably delete this last item also. Setting up a local network that used to be interesting, back in the late 90s or 2000s, because it used to be difficult. Nowadays, anybody can do that. It basically happens out of the box automatically when you install your operating system, whether it's Windows or Mac or Linux. You just get that for free. So, in other words, this kind of sounds like I installed an operating system. So it's not really that great. Now, if you did something interesting with DNS, you want to talk about that, and say configured local DNS, but make sure it's something interesting, and not just that you set up standard DNS server. So yeah, I think I said enough about that. Work experience. Oh, so he told me that this was his first job ever, but there's some work experience here. This should be moved at the very top of the resume, above education, even though that doesn't strictly follow the rule I said about reverse chronological order, because there are overlaps. So both of these have happened while at school, but I would still put them above education because they're more relevant. The fact that 2 people or 2 companies have hired you is a good vote of confidence for your ability. Guest technical writer, unless it's in your contract, I would take out the word guest here. If that decreases your credibility slightly. If you just say technical writer, I think that, and you've been paid for it, then just you're a technical writer. Just say that. And then Stencil Labs UI design or intern, good, yeah. Put both of these at the top above education, even though they happen concurrently. And then additional certifications. Okay, achievements. I don't know what that means. It's probably something from. There's a link. Does it tell me what it means? Participation certificate. Technolothon is some sort of hackathon. I think I would delete that because it's just a participation certificate. It doesn't actually say you achieved anything, so it doesn't really add credibility. If you want to mention it, remove the link. Just mention that it happened. Bronze medalist, that's much more useful. That says that you achieved something, not that just that you participated. So I like including an interest thing. This is something that is controversial. Some people think interest is a bad idea. Some people like it. My personal view is that it's useful, especially if it talks about something that's not directly related to your job, to your technical job. So this is kind of borderline in that category. Tinkering with hardware and software, that's pretty common among developers, but it's not part of development, so it's okay. Blogging is good. I like that, and I like that you have a technical writer up here. Developers who know how to write effectively are really important. And you've done technical documentation for these projects, so the fact that you've done that, and you mentioned the Postman documentation, so the fact it shows clearly here that you have an interest and capability of writing documentation. That's valuable. And if you're putting GNU, Linux, and Docker usage, I would also remove GNU here. It's less important here because it's not about being short, but again, there's really only one Linux. So it's not, yes, the name is technically GNU Linux, but it's not necessary to say that. And it just makes it a little bit shorter. All right, so let me try to summarize. I believe it needs a little bit of reordering. I think skills should go to the top right below the contact details. Then immediately after that should be work experience and then education. Then after that, I think the open source contributions and projects are probably in a good order. And then I might consider moving certifications up with skills for the simple reason that some companies especially like to look for certifications and they want to know that quickly. So, especially the Go certifications might be valuable to some people hiring. So consider putting certifications maybe as a heading under skills, and then clean up the other sections. Delete some of the things that haven't been merged yet from the CV until they've been merged, and a few other suggestions I made about rewording and tightening things up. And that will give you the freedom to add some extra white space, which will make the resume look more visually pleasing and less crowded. And I think as a last comment, I would encourage you to write tests for your projects that you've linked to. Because that's what people are going to be looking for. And if you can show that you're able to write your tests, that will go a long way to adding credibility to your resume. Overall, it's not a bad resume. I wouldn't reject. I mean, if I was looking for a junior developer, I wouldn't reject this resume based on anything I've seen. But it would take more time to evaluate this than it should, because I'd be following these links and seeing these unmerged pull requests and links to reports that a dead link to a report in a chat room, that would disqualify, but it would distract from the important stuff. So take that out. For somebody who's never had a quote real job, I think this is a strong resume. The fact that you're working on open source projects and your own projects is amazing. That's really good. So keep up the good work in that area, and I hope that you can find a good job quickly. So thank you for submitting your resume to me to review. I hope you've learned a lot in what I've said. And if you disagree with me, or you think there's anything I missed, leave a comment below. If you'd like me to look at your resume in an upcoming video, maybe let me know about that too. And one last thing I want to mention, if you find this useful, I do write a daily email about Go, and I'd love to have you on that list. You can go to boldlygo.tech/daily to sign up, and I send out daily emails about Go, some of the same topics I talk about on this channel. And I've been getting a lot of great feedback on that mailing list too. Thanks for watching. Until next time, make it go.